Hello, this is Miss Yount, and I am doing the February 19th review for our quiz on the different types of poetry. So I'm going to go ahead and start you off with the activator. I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then we will discuss the question over here that's asking for two ways the picture is intrinsic or necessary for comprehending this poem. And what might we miss about this poem without a picture? So here's the poem Carrots by Shel Silverstein. They say that carrots are good for your eyes. They swear that they improve your sight. But I'm seeing worse than I did last night. You think maybe I ain't using 'em right? So if we didn't have this lovely picture, kind of scary picture, we might not catch the humor involved or elicited with this poem. We wouldn't know what the author was talking about with the eyesights and the carrots being good for your eyes. They're obviously not meant to stick in your eyes, right? So another thing we might miss is the literal versus figurative interpretation, meaning that carrots aren't good to stick exactly in your eyes, right, to improve your sight, but rather to eat them. So there's all sorts of important reasons why sometimes poets and authors choose to use pictures or illustrations to go along with their poems. And that really gets at the heart of today's lesson. Today we're going to be reviewing the different types of poetry and analyze the various structures so that I can prepare for my upcoming quiz over the different types of poetry. I'll know I've got it when I ace the graded poems quiz that's due today. So go ahead and look at these. This is a matching game on the different types of poetry. I suggest you go ahead and look at these, maybe even pause the video. Give yourself a few minutes to review the terms on the left-hand side column and then the definitions on the right. See if you can't match these up yourself before being shown the answers. So, of course, these are the answers. Narrative is a poem that tells a story. An epic is a long narrative poem telling of a hero's deeds. We have lyric, which is a poem that does not tell a story but expresses the personal feelings or thoughts of a speaker. We also have sonnet, which is a poem of 14 lines using several formal rhyme schemes. In English, 10 syllables per line. Couplet, we've been going over those all week. Don't forget, those are 2 consecutive lines of poetry that rhyme. We also have a Shakespearean sonnet. That is a sonnet consisting of 3 quatrains, concluding couplet in iambic pentameter with the rhyme pattern of AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, and then it rhymes with that concluding couplet of rhyming GG. And then finally we have ballad, which is a form of verse, often a narrative set to music. So for a check for understanding, what is the difference between a ballad and a lyric poem? So go pause the video again and give yourself a few minutes to jot down the similarities between a ballad and the differences between a ballad and a lyric poem. The similarities, again, between a ballad and a lyric poem, and then the differences. So when you're reviewing the similarities between a ballad and a lyric poem, these two forms do have a musical history, and both are definitely types of poetry. The differences include that poets will write ballads from the point of view of a narrator. So it's usually like a POV narrator is telling you this story, who can be part of the story or an outside observer. So it really has to do with the point of view and the narrator as far as ballads being different from lyrics. So when we're looking under what is a poem, this is the example that they've given us, and I'm going to go ahead and read it, and hopefully you'll be able to identify it. So look at you, small snail, there with your house on your back, forever alone. Can you identify this type of poem? So this format is usually composed of 3 lines of 5, 7, 5 syllables. And then let's go ahead and do this one down here, and then we'll share the answers. Can you identify this one? The first line, second line, and fifth lines end in rhyming words. The third and fourth lines must rhyme. Here's the poem. There was a young girl in a tower who looked just as fresh as a flower. Her hair was like silk, her skin smooth as milk. Her breath made the strongest night cower. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's go ahead and see. For this first one, look at you, small snail. That's definitely a haiku. And really the key is there, the 575, 3 lines of 575, right? And then for this bottom one, that's a limerick. Limericks typically have a little bit of a jingle, a little bit of a ditty musical quality to them. There was a young girl in a tower who looked just as fresh as a flower. Her hair was like silk, her skin smooth as milk, but her breath made the strongest night cower. All right, and then for check for understanding, if you want to go ahead again and pause and try to fill this out on your own, okay? This is going over haiku and the different elements of a haiku. So a haiku is a Japanese form of poetry that consists of short, unrhymed lines. These lines can take various forms of brief verses. However, the most common structure of a haiku features 3 lines of 5, 7, and 5 syllables, respectively. A haiku generally presents a single and concentrated image or emotion, like the snail poetry that we just did, or a poem. And then finally, for our closing, which is the correct definition of ode? I know that y'all were working on odes on Thursday, so is it a lyric poem in the form of an address to a particular subject, often elevated in style or manner, and written in varied or irregular meter? That sounds good, but let me read on. A ballad poem in the form of an address to a particular subject, often elevated in style or manner, and written in varied or irregular meter. Is it a cinquain poem in the form of a letter to a particular subject, often elevated in a style or manner, and written in varied or irregular meter? Or finally, for the OK sign, is it a sonnet poem in the form of an address to a particular subject, often elevated in style or manner, and written in varied or irregular meter? So which of these do you think it might be? Go ahead and review those, even pause the video if you need to. And also think about what other ways do people memorialize or pay tribute to things of importance. Ode being an obvious one because we're studying poetry, but there's plenty of ways that people think about subjects and pay tribute or memorialize them. All right, so for the answer for that one, it's going to be a lyric poem in the form, a lyric poem in the form of an address to a particular subject, often elevated in style or manner, and written in varied or irregular meter. So today you are being tasked with reviewing the Structure of Poetry Quizlet before you go in and take your test on the different types of poems. So we've reviewed some of them, but I suggest you use that Quizlet, and that should help you. If you have any more questions or need to contact your teacher outside of class, please email your teacher. Reach out if you have any questions or concerns. Thanks and have a fabulous day.